Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 284 of the All Dolphins
Yes.
podcast. Yes. If my math is correct, I believe we're 16 away from 300. As you can see by the gentleman on my right or my left, I always get that mixed up. I am joined today, very pleased to be joined by Josh Moser, sports anchor for WSVN in South Florida. Josh, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. I like the hats. No hair, no suit and tie, casual. I'm about this.
There you go. There you go. We're all about casual. Speaking of hats, can I ask what's on the logo of yours?
Yeah, this is the
I,
Snowmass Club just south of Aspen. It's like one of my favorite places
oh,
in the
Snowmass. Okay.
United States. It's very special. I was a sports anchor in Denver, and I started my career in Grand Junction, which is just right by Aspen. So I've got friends, family up there. It's a special place, and for anybody that wants to go golfing there, highly recommend it. And if you need to get on, I'm happy to help.
I may take you up on that. Actually, I've been to Snowmass once. Actually, I went skiing there.
It's
Back, I
amazing.
want to
I,
say,
I love it.
yeah, no, it was very very good. So today is Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. Dolphins are continuing their offseason program. They're not yet at the OTA stage. That's going to start Monday, May 20th. We did have a Zoom media session with a couple of players Tuesday with linebacker David Long Jr. and running back Raheem Mostert. Um, and Raheem coming off a fabulous year. I mean, he was great last year. Set Dolphin single season records for rushing touchdowns and total touchdowns. Was asked about the selection of Jaylen Wright, the speedy running back from Tennessee in the fourth round. And I will read you his quote, Josh, before we talk a little bit about Raheem, the Jaylen Wright selection. So his comment was basically the question, "What's your reaction to the pick?" Yeah, my reaction at the time, I was just like, "Yeah, whatever it is, it is what it is. It's the same typical thing, draft drama, pretty much all the time, regardless of the position." But no, I'm honestly excited to have Jaylen come in, just another Jaylen coming in on the mix on the team. Just excited to have him here and try to coach him up, try to help him out within this offense, and let's see what you can do. And I wrote about this on si.com/NFL/Dolphins, as you can see under my name. So my initial reaction to the selection of Jaylen Wright was like, damn, he's fast, but also, did you really need another running back with Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane? Your reaction was what?
I mean, look, you're building for the future, and you're going to hear GM say it all of the time that they're going to take the best player available. But this is a situation where they traded up to get him, which I think was most surprising, which means that they had a higher draft grade on him. So they were surprised that Wright was still left on the board. I haven't watched much of him at Tennessee, but we know that head coach Mike McDaniel loves speed. He's got breakaway speed at 4.3. And being objective, that's what we do as journalists, right? Especially when we're beat reporters. Yeah.
I try. Yeah, I try.
We've seen the running back position get really devalued, but we've also seen multiple running backs not make it through the entire season. So Raheem missed time last year. Jeff Wilson missed a significant chunk of time. Devon Achane missed games as well. So you're talking about your top three running backs being hurt at some point in the season. Now the question becomes, what are you going to do with this roster? Because you still have Chris Brooks, and then you still have Alec Ingold, who's a Pro Bowler. So you're talking about maybe carrying 5 to 6 running backs out of the 53. I know there's a taxi squad. Exactly. You cannot have that too many. There's too many running backs. I think 4 is realistically your max. I think Brooks will most likely end up back on the practice squad. But what's interesting to me is, right, you go with that speed. We were talking a couple months ago, Alain, when we watched the Dolphins lose in that Kansas City game, that they don't have that power back. And everybody was throwing, the big man from Tennessee that was a free agent. We're not even going to say his name right now because we don't want to get Dolphins Twitter upset about that. But you're going with kind of the same type of back that you have. That to me is what's most surprising. So it's almost like they're drafting a replacement for Mostert. Yes, we know he's aging out. Jeff Wilson, he renegotiated his deal this year. So he was actually making more money than Raheem was last year, which I think is the most surprising thing that was really not talked about too much. But look, you're going to go with 4 guys plus Alec Ingold. I don't have a problem with the pick. I would have loved to see, more depth on the offensive and defensive line. You talk to general managers around the league, the hardest players to find are big guys that can move. And you want to build your team in the trenches. And especially if you're going to give Tua Tagovailoa $50+ million a year, you want to protect him. So, but hey, it's another weapon, and you better score 40 points a game. I think they're going with, we're going to win by scoring more points than you. So let's give Tua as many weapons as possible.
Okay, here's my thing is, and I've actually kind of, my opinion of the pick has evolved to where I'm liking it a lot more now than I did when it was made, because again, the price to get him was a third next year. And based on the idea of you have a guy for a full year, you have to go up a round to make that pick. So it was equivalent. Getting Jaylen Wright in the third round in 2025 is the same as getting in the fourth round in 2024. Dolphins didn't have a fourth round pick. So that's kind of a bonus. It's additional depth at the running back position. Not that he's in it. And if Achane and Raheem are healthy the entire season, he may not play a ton. But what's the likelihood of that if we're going to be realistic about it? So I kind of like it, even not purely from a 2025 and beyond standpoint, but I think he could help this year. So I've come around on it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate the pick at all. I mean, look, this is a guy with blazing speed. It's hard to find guys that are 4.3. You talk about the running back coach that they have, Eric Stoodsville. He's been beloved. I mean, he talked about mentoring players. He's been great. And I mean, look at what he's done with Raheem. He's rejuvenated, his career. We watched him torch the Packers when he was with the 49ers in that NFC Championship game. And then he's come here and he's been absolutely wonderful. I think where Wright could be valuable as well. I don't think you're going to put him on the practice squad. So let's just eliminate that. I think he would get taken off the practice squad. So just for anybody watching, like that. But you do have new kickoff formations this year, new kickoff rules. So this is a position that these players are all going to have to learn, and speed kills, especially when you're talking short distances. So I think that's a position where you could see him and then be in the rotation to be in the running back room, especially to get a couple carries here and there. But again, you talk about quarters of the season and you're hoping that, he could play a part here November, December, or he's that stopgap just in case somebody gets hurt and still has the breakaway speed. They can take it to the house at any time.
No, I agree. And you mentioned earlier, I don't count necessarily Alec Ingold in the running back room because he's kind of a separate entity. He's going to make the roster regardless. So, but if we're talking like halfbacks, you got three that are pretty much locks. I mean, Mostert, Achane, and Jaylen Wright. And the question is, do they keep a fourth? And to me, I would like to see Brooks be the fourth because he's the one who brings the physicality. Jeff Wilson Jr. just does have some physicality, but I really like what I saw from Chris Brooks in training camp last year.
Yeah, I mean, and he was good. The one game that he got run in before he got hurt, it was that long run down the sideline, and then he just disappeared the rest of the season. And I was almost thinking, man, here's a guy that we need in cold weather. Wow, my bad. Here's a guy that the Dolphins need in cold weather. I know I said the eyes right there.
Although, you know what? That's going to play well with certain of our viewers. But
it's like you spend so much time with this. It's just like, all right, but Mike McDaniel is this offensive guru. And we've seen him evolve and we've seen him get better now going into his third year. But, a lot of mistakes have been made. He's been very open and candid about it. So I think what he does in his play calling is going to change. And maybe there is some room, for Chris Brooks. But I really believe just in order to help protect Tua a little bit too. And even with the addition of Odell Beckham Jr., which I'm sure we'll get into. But I think we're going to see a lot more 12 personnel, the two tight end set. You bring in Jonnu Smith. I think you're going to see more of that kind of what San Francisco is doing. Remember Mike McDaniel coming from San Francisco. So I wouldn't be surprised if they carry the 4, but I hope Brooks is the guy, and maybe there's a standout, from somewhere, but I think you can still stash Brooks at least at the start on your training practice squad, taxi squad roster and go from there.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with you that to me, he's not an automatic. You waive him, try to get him back on the practice squad, and he gets claimed. He might get claimed, but I don't think it's a certainty. I agree with you. Here's the thing also, if we're looking at this offense and the addition of Wright, is I think Mike McDaniel is not going to overnight have a philosophical dramatic change, and it's going to be a speed-based offense. I call it a finesse offense. If it offends people, sorry, that's what they are. And here's the thing. there's similarities in terms of their offense to the 99 Rams, which is an insane amount of speed, great skilled position players. And then if you recall, the 99 Rams didn't have to go on the road in the playoffs because they had the best record in the NFL. Ideally, this is what the Dolphins are shooting for. And then it's going to get accomplished if they can find a way to beat those good teams and for their offense or the defense to steal a game if they have to. And then if you don't have to go on the road, then you don't have to worry about the elements.
Sure.
But they will have to adjust and have some counters for the good defenses that have found a way to kind of slow them down late in the last 2 seasons. And this is where adding more options, Jaylen Wright, Jonnu Smith, Odell Beckham Jr. could make a difference for the Dolphins.
Yeah, and you had Tyreek and Jalen Waddle were kind of banged up at the end, but I mean, I hate talking about the past, but I mean, this season unraveled at that Monday night game against Tennessee. You win that game, you can rest your starters in Week 18. You get a home game against the Chiefs. I know they went on to win the Super Bowl, but I think it's a very different game outside of the freezing temperatures that you talked about. But yeah, you've got to stack as many wins as possible. I mean, the division's interesting. I really think that the Buffalo Bills took a step back. I'd be surprised if the Patriots win 6 games this year. And to me, the biggest question mark is, what are you going to get out of Aaron Rodgers and the Jets? I just don't know. So to me right now, as it looks on paper, you would think that the Dolphins have a legitimate chance of winning this division. And if you do that,
won it last year.
Exactly. You think,
but it's to be honest. I mean, it's like, oh my God.
You should.
Talk about everything was there for them. And it was like, man.
Everything. That Monday night game just out the window.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. And you trust me, you're not the only one. A whole bunch of people keep talking about that Monday night game. And it's like every team around the league, unless my research failed me, had this one bad loss against the team they should beat. That was the one for the Dolphins. They basically spanked everybody else. And that game, they didn't play well from the start, period. And then they got 2 turnovers deep into Tennessee territory, and they went from 13-13 to 27-13 like that. And then the defense completely collapsed. The offense couldn't pick up a first down or barely. And then, boom, you lose a game. But I don't want to me, the bigger issue is I'm more concerned about 1-6 against playoff opponents as opposed to losing that Tennessee game. Because you're going to – okay, because if they're going to get to where they want to go, this is where and you can take some encouragement from the fact that they start off at Buffalo in October. They scored touchdowns on their first 2 drives. At Baltimore, early on, the offense was humming. If Tyreek doesn't drop that touchdown pass in the end zone, we're looking at 2 touchdown drives. So it's there. It's just a matter of consistency and all that. Are you completely satisfied with the offense? How big of a concern is it for you that the right guard position is right now going to be manned by whoever emerges from Jack Driscoll, Liam Eichenberg, Robert Jones, maybe Lester Cotton?
There's always concern, with the offensive line. We've been talking about this for 2 years. I know Omar's no longer on the pod here, but I mean, that's a big one from Omar. To me, it seems every time we talk to Chris Grier, Alain, I mean, they seem very confident in their offensive line. And I understand, we're the media, we're trying to get information out of, the brass, and they're trying to withhold information. But look, I think the NFL has changed, and we've seen it here with the Dolphins, where you're looking for players that can play a variety of positions. And, we've seen Liam Eichenberg play multiple spots. We've seen Robert Jones play multiple spots. So they do have that versatility. The question is, do you have 5 that are good enough? And the bigger question is how many games can Teron Armstead give you? I mean, that to me is the big question. When he's in there, I don't have as much concern about the right guard. When he's not there, it's a completely different offensive line. And I love Teron. He's one of my favorite people in the locker room. I think he has an opportunity to truly be a Hall of Famer and get a gold jacket. I think he deserves it. But what he played through with the injuries is unbelievable. But when he's not there, you paid Austin Jackson the money. That's protecting Tua's blind side. I'm okay. Like, I'm fine with that pick. But you just lose everything when you have Teron out, especially the communication. And obviously Connor Williams is a huge, huge loss. And he's nowhere near ready from speaking to his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, to sign with anybody. I mean, MCL, ACL, everything, the whole knee. And he's dropped, I've heard, almost 90 pounds. So he might, I don't even see him in the NFL, to be honest with you, unless he makes a miraculous comeback here in the next 3 months at any point next season. I hope that he comes back. But I mean, he was a huge loss. So I think they signed a center. They brought in guys. They signed 7 defensive tackles here on the roster.
Stay focused. We're talking offensive line right now. Stay focused.
Yeah, but in my long-winded response, I'm concerned. I think the offensive line is a B. But again, if you're Tua Tagovailoa and how we've seen this offense when it really works, is you're only holding the ball for 2 seconds or less.
Thank you. So, and that correct. And that brings it to a point I want to make. And not just fans, the media is all over the place with the offensive line, because you keep hearing it's such a concern. It's such a concern. Butch Barry's doing a fabulous job, but he's the key player. Well, if he's doing a fabulous, and it was a problem last year. Well, if he's doing a fabulous job, what was it? And it was a problem that doesn't mesh. And what Mike McDaniel's offense does, along with the skills that they have with Tyreek and Jaylen Waddle being able to get open very quickly, and Tua being able to find him and get him the ball very quickly, it puts a lot less pressure on that offensive line. And in the running game, it's all about misdirection, getting the defense going the wrong way. And that also, I'm not going to say it's easy to execute, but it's not the same as asking an offensive lineman, see that guy in front of him, you have to move him off the spot. You're basically taking advantage of the defensive lineman's momentum going the wrong way to accomplish your task. So that's easier on the offensive lineman. Having said all that, where the offensive line needs to step up and maybe didn't as much as it could have is when all the trickery and camouflage and all that good stuff is not fooling the defense, because the defense is up to par. There will be occasions when it has to be mano a mano and you have to win. And the question is, can the Dolphins do that consistently enough?
Right. I mean, you're relying solely on Mike McDaniel to scheme up the defense. The negative, the drawback, so the way that they've structured that is exactly how you said it. The drawback is Tua can't change the play at the line of scrimmage. Like, once the play's in, it's in. And he's talked about they've got to figure out how do they check out of stuff like that, because it's so long of a play to get called. So he's not really reading. Everything his reads are pre-snap. So very different from Aaron Rodgers, where he's able to call out the mic, call out this. I see this coverage. Okay, let me change. Let me go. We heard Peyton Manning classically use the phrase Omaha, but you have so much speed. This is how they built it. And they're basically saying, this is what we're doing. We're going to do better than you. Stop us. And okay. So let's see it. You have so much speed, so much talent on offense that they know that their weakness is the offensive line. So we're going to get the ball out faster and we're going to put up 35 points a game. I mean, that's the goal. I know the outlier last year was Denver that really skewed the average, but I mean, I just want to see it. This is year 3 you've been covering this league for a long time. This is going in my 15th season. It's when you talk to the GMs and coaches, the year 2 to year 3 is when they see the biggest jump from players to coach. And this is now from year 2 to year 3 of Mike McDaniel and Tua. So I'm hoping that we are able to really see this elevate. I mean, look, he's a Pro Bowl quarterback last year, led the NFL in passing. You've got the great weapons, but now it's, can you do it again? And can you do it against good teams in big moments? Those are the questions that have to be answered.
Right. No, that is the key question. Where's your comfort level on the defense right now? Go ahead, answer, and then I'll
honestly, I have no idea. I love the addition of Fuller. What a bargain that was to bring him in. I love the addition of Jordan Poyer. I know he's a little bit older, but I've gotten to know him a little bit. A phenomenal golfer, by the way. If anybody is a golf fan, Poyer's a great golfer. I don't know much about Anthony Weaver. He says all of the right things. I haven't really had an opportunity to speak and truly get to know him, but from talking to players that have played for him, I mean, they love this guy. Obviously the big concern is, where's Jalen Phillips going to be? He says that he's going to be ready to go week 1 back from the Achilles. You have the stopgap with Shaq Barrett, who's got all of the pedigree in the world. He also tore his Achilles. So he preferred to play on natural grass, one of the main reasons to come to the Dolphins. Don't know what Bradley Chubb and his knee. I saw a picture of him at F1 this weekend pushing a big tire. So I think that's promising. Obviously, he came back from a torn ACL, so he's done it before. But you've got to have those two guys healthy. We really don't know what's happening at defensive tackle outside Zach Sealer. Tier Tart's like a true nose tackle. Yeah, revolving door. That's kind of their weakness. What's interesting, Alan, we were talking about the offensive line.
Rotation. I mean, that means rotation. There's going to be a lot of guys.
It kind of seems like their weakness is the middle of the line on both the offensive and the defensive side. So it's kind of the bend but don't break. We're going to stop you on the outside. We're going to bend a little in the middle, but we're going to beat you to the outside. It's kind of an interesting, I guess you could say, just I don't know what the right word is here. Observation, I guess you could say. Linebacking core, no idea. Duke Riley played so many snaps last year, and he was on special teams. I think he played over like 115 snaps in that playoff loss. It was ridiculous. But you brought in Anthony Walker, who's from here. You brought in guys that wanted to be here, and I think that really makes a difference. But these aren't, marquee guys. Like, it's great that they want to be here. But
they all want to be here. Sorry, Josh.
Everybody wants to be here.
They want to be here because there's no state income tax. The weather's nice, and you're playing for a team that has success. I mean, sorry,
we're a classic 3-4. I would love to see Chop Robinson and Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb on the field at the same time. I don't know how you're going to scheme that up, but I think that'd be very interesting. You're just hoping that Chop can be a starter day one, and you're hoping that he can be a consistent starter this season. I think he's a big question mark. Jalen Ramsey, I have no concerns over. And then the other question that I have is corner. We're a little light. You hope that Cam Smith can do something. We know that he was on I don't know what the profanity called, the shit list for the old DC last year. Are we allowed to say that there? Oh, my bad.
It's kind of late now, right?
Yeah.
If we're not, it's kind of late now.
My bad. But look, so Cam Smith, to me, he's almost like a draft pick this year. You're hoping that he can be what Devon Achane was. He was taken above Achane last year. So if he can do something, you hope for that. You hope that Kader Kahu gets better. You've got Nick Needham back in the slot, so you've got two like nickel guys. So you have pieces. Can you stay healthy? And are you going to play for each other? And what can Anthony Weaver do differently that we haven't seen? But in the defense, it's been a revolving door at defensive coordinator. So you're just hoping for some sort of consistency there. But again, your strength is your offense. You're trying to score more points than the other team. But can this defense hold the team to less than 25 points a game?
Yeah,
that's
except
where you need to be.
Yeah, except I would make the argument there was a point last year before the injuries hit, the defense was the strength of this team. And this 100%. Is why, to me, that roster last year was the best offense roster in a while. Totally. Before it was decimated, it was really, really good. Now there are just a whole lot of question marks on defense. all over the place, starting with the health of Chubb and Phillips, starting with exactly what you're going to get from Jordan Brooks, even though all indications are he's a clear upgrade over Jerome Baker. Sure. I know you're sorry. I don't mean to offend you because I know you're a fan of Jordan Poyer, but I have several friends in Buffalo covered the Bills or work around the Bills, and they've told me he's not quite the same guy. In fact, I have to repeat the greatest quote ever on the All Dolphins podcast. We had Tim Graham from The Athletic on, and we asked him what Jordan Poyer would bring to the Dolphins. And he talked about basically his moxie and all that, the dog attitude. And the quote of the year was, "The Dolphins are paying for Jordan Poyer's balls." So,
for the veteran minimum.
Correct. No. Yeah, and not only that, if the only thing you get out of Jordan Poyer is the moxie he brings and it becomes contagious, and then he becomes a great mentor for Javon Holland, at the price the Dolphins are paying, sign me up. It was a great move. I do think the Dolphins are light at safety.
That kid out of Cal they drafted.
Sorry?
That kid out of Cal they drafted. I forget it. I'm blanking on. I don't know if he's
Patrick McMorris. I never. This is as a personal rule. I never count on a 6th-round pick or beyond. If the guy pans out, fabulous. But generally speaking, 6th-round steals are few and far between. Malik Washington, I know, led FBS in receptions. Again, if you get something out of him, it's going to be a bonus. He because I remember last year a lot of fans were completely jacked about, well, they got the Stanford wide receiver who's going to be converted to tight end, and you watch what a factor he becomes. He got cut. So
again. Got the tight end coming over from Kansas City that was hurt last year is another piece.
Yeah, I'm told with him. But here's the other thing, though: you're going to keep 4 tight ends because right now
you got Durham Smythe, Julian Hiller making the roster with Jonnu, so those are 3 for sure.
Here's the only thing I would say, though. I don't think to keep 4. Are we so sure that Julian Hill's making the roster? And I know it's out there that the Dolphins really like him and all that. I know that's out there.
I guess we'll see how we get through training camp and health. I think, that's the big thing. Like, you have a freak injury. I've seen it happen. I covered the Packers for a long time. I saw Jordy Nelson go down early with the, torn ACL, and you're just like, oh my God, the season's done. So, not that, I'm knocking on some wood here. You want everybody to be healthy. You just kind of got to get through this preseason and kind of see where you're at. But having depth certainly doesn't hurt, and you hope that you can make some tough decisions. And in a best case scenario, you have too much at one position, and then you can make a trade either for somebody else or for a pick next year. So there's always options.
No, I agree. My only thing is my buddies in Kansas City tell me that Jody Fortson has some really intriguing pass catching ability as a tight end. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. Well, if he stays healthy in training camp and he flashes, again,
roster. Yeah,
correct.
Tyreek loves him. So
I don't know. Guess we'll have to find out. Last thing on the roster, Ben, before we wrap it up with the schedule. Yeah. If you can add one guy right now, not necessarily player, but position, or are you completely satisfied with the way the roster is?
I'm good with the wide receiving core. I would, just the way that things have played out, I would love a cover corner. Okay. And you can always shift somebody to safety, but I think a true cover corner, is a piece that this team needs. Like you said, when Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey were healthy last year, this defense was lights out. And I know it was the patsy part of the schedule with the under 500 teams, but
they were good.
If when you have 2 shutdown, true lockdown corners, it changes everything. And that's why those guys get paid to be on the island. That's why they're, it's a big ticket item. But if you get one of those players, I don't know who's still out there. There's a couple of veteran guys. There's a couple of safeties floating around too. But if you get a baller cover corner, which Cam Smith is supposed to be, this team, then you can play chess. You can really move some pieces around. What about you? What are you thinking?
I'd go safety 1.
Yep.
Corner 2 because of the position. I'm going to agree with you, and right guard 3. I think those would be my 3.
No love for Lester Cotton, man. Poor Lester.
He's even in the mix. Because if we were to rank the battle, to me, I think it would be Liam, Robert Jones, Jack Driscoll, and then Lester Cotton. That's how I would handicap the rest.
I'm with you.
Okay. We're going to close it out with the schedule. Are you like me? Call me a nerd if you want. I don't care. I'm always very excited about the schedule release. Okay, so see, that's the reason. So there you go. There's a reason.
We're a couple days away from everything that I've heard. Oh, that was great.
You like that?
Mine doesn't do it. I think I got the 13. No love. Like, you get the real heart. No, so like in Green Bay, when I was there, and when I was in Denver, like when Peyton Manning was there in Denver, it was like his first season. It was just like everything's, fantastic. For everyone watching, a lot of times the schedule gets leaked ahead of times to hotels, to municipalities around, the area, so they can get ready and prepare prices. So, you get all this like breaking news, like, this hotel guy's got this, and this is when this team's going to get here. And then, so I love it. 2 years ago, there was that terrible stretch. It was like 3 games on the road, like that ended with Buffalo. I think it was like Chargers, San Francisco, and then to Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken. I think they lost all 3 games.
It was 49ers, Chargers, Bills. Yeah. And then
it's like that killed them. Like last year, there were no 3 road games back to back. So, and the schedule's a big deal because you can kind of map out, how this thing's going to play out. And, players and coaches will tell you, 1 week at a time, like they know who's on the schedule and where it is and where they can potentially rest people or where they can dial back some plays. So they're trying to get to January healthy and in the mix. But I love it. I mean, I'm excited. It's always fun. And then,
are you hoping your return, Josh? Are you hoping your return to Green Bay is going to be a primetime affair?
I hope so. I mean, you're talking about Tua getting paid. I think they're paying Jordan Love here soon. I mean, if you look at the AFC, I think they're the better conference overall. The NFC kind of up in the air. That division, especially, like you've got the Lions. You have no idea what's going to happen in Chicago with all these young draft picks. Minnesota's a mess. So I think the Packers have a legitimate chance to make the playoffs like they did last year. They surprised everybody with the playoff win last year. So I think that could be a primetime game. I think there's a trip to Los Angeles. It's Rams, not Herbert. So, that's an intriguing non-conference matchup. Indy's always a fun city to travel to. A lot of people are looking for Josh Richardson to be back, the former Gator. I mean, there's some good games. Houston's fun. I mean, that team, I think they're going to be a sneaky good team. Mm-hmm. I mean, they got a lot of talent. And then I think the AFC North is just a gauntlet. I mean, those four teams, they all loaded up. Steelers are going to be a very interesting team this year. Browns should be improved if they can, basically get out of their own way. You've got the Ravens, obviously, what they did last year. So, I mean, it's a very tough division with Joe Burrow being back too. Mike Gesicki's over there now. So I'm excited. I don't know.
Yeah, I got to interject there though. Yeah, Mike Gesicki's in Cincinnati now, and they drafted not one but two tight ends. So it was like, there you go, Mike.
I mean, he made his big money on his franchise tag here. That was his biggest year.
He did. Not been the same since.
I'm always excited about this stuff. Maybe that's what we're talking about this here, like first week of May. Deep dive in on the fifth running back possibility. You're gonna keep them on the 53.
No, that's what we do. Yeah, I'm looking at it, and I'm looking. The Dolphins are at Houston, and last time they played a primetime game at Houston. Don't think I want to see that on the schedule again. Like, I don't know. No. I don't remember. That might have been before your time, actually. But
there's something about Lambeau at night, though. Like Lambeau Field at night, and especially if it's a cold weather game. I mean, it's just like has that football mystique. I mean, even in Cleveland at the Dog Pound, like there's mystique. Same with, I forget what the new name of Heinz Field is. I'm sorry. The field in Pittsburgh. They renamed it. Yeah. I mean, that place is awesome. I mean, it's just got that lore. It's kind of like being in Canton. And then, luckily we're avoiding Washington. FedEx, just happy we're not there this year. I can't stand that arena. That stadium's trash.
Yeah, I actually wrote a story about schedule, connecting the dots with the schedule, and I don't know if I predict is not the right word, but basically don't be surprised if the season finale is going to be Dolphins at Jets. So that's in my story.
I wouldn't be surprised. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, you'd think Aaron Rodgers doesn't get hurt like that 2 seasons in a row. I know he's approaching 40. But
here's the reason also. Did you know, this is a little trivia thing here on the All Dolphins podcast. Since 2010, when they started making every season finale a division game, the Dolphins have been involved in every scenario at Buffalo at home, at New England at home, Jets at home, but not at the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
How about that? Or as I say, how about that?
How about that? Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that. I mean, yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. I think this year's going to have a lot of twists and turns. I think we'll see how the schedule stacks up, and then we can start talking about that. But I'm pumped. So, I mean, it should start leaking here, Thursday morning. I think it's May 9th is what I've heard.
Well, here's the thing. No, they have not set a date yet. I saw a headline this morning suggesting that maybe the fact that they're going to have 2 Christmas Day games on a Wednesday is making things more complicated and might delay it. All we've seen from the NFL is it's going to be released in May. Well, we're in May, so who knows? On that note, Josh Moser, thank you so very much for joining me on this episode of the All Dolphins podcast, and we will catch you guys Thursday was going to be our next show. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.